then I look at you, and the world's all right with me.
I had to get out of bed earlier than usual.
Good morning. Guess who's in studio with me today? I've been stalking this woman for 7 years. Patricia Mellon from New Haven's Promise. Hey, Patricia.
Hello. Good
How are
morning.
you?
I'm great this
Nice
morning.
to see you.
Likewise.
How are you?
I'm great.
So I got the 2018 Annual Scholar Celebration, New Haven Promise, to, through, and back.
Yes.
This is a hefty piece of work.
Because these students and their families are serious about education and about moving up in the world.
Not like those other parents who...
No comment. No one wins in that situation.
Oh my God, the kids lose, everybody lose, the embarrassment, the shame. But maybe some people don't have shame. They're like, whatever, we do whatever we got to do to put our kids ahead.
Well, I tell you, New Haven Promise, I mean, we have touched about 1,500 students who we've funded over, 8 years? We're in the 9th year of Promise.
Wow. All right, so tell me about the New Haven Promise. Give me the history.
Well, the history started before I got here. John DeStefano, who was the mayor at the time, and Reggie Mayo and Will Ginsburg, all the people who were looking for a way to invigorate the schools and to really invest in New Haven. And John sort of led the effort, discovered a Promise type program, which was in Kalamazoo, and thought it could really work here to invigorate the schools, economic development, the employment. The number one employer, 30 or 40 years ago, was Winchester Gun Factory. And, and now the number one employer is who?
Yale.
We all know.
The university, the hospital,
and
the
hospital is number 2. So that requires a different education level. These are new economy, digital jobs, and, the boom in healthcare. So we moved from being a manufacturing based city to eds and meds, education, and the medical health profession.
That's good to know. That's good. So when you came 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago, so what made you want to come?
Okay, now
what was the deciding factor?
Yale was the deciding factor. I did go to undergraduate here, and
that I did not know.
Yes, that's how I got to know B. Taylor.
Okay.
Taylor.
Who is my dear friend.
Wait, her husband.
Mentor.
Her husband.
Roberto.
Was the soccer coach, the women's soccer coach.
Oh, that's right. You are a world-class athlete. You are an Olympic athlete.
Well, I didn't get quite that far. I came close. But I was originally a field hockey player. So when I would go into the athletic facility out where the soccer fields, the girls' soccer was led by Roberto Taylor. And I said, who is this tall, handsome person?
And that would be accurate.
That's incredibly accurate.
That's very accurate.
And I was a field hockey player. So I was looking over saying, who is this person? Oh, my goodness. And so I was an undergrad student here, and I left for many years. I obviously, did compete at the national level, but I retired in 1988. And then went all over the country doing education, starting small schools, in just about every realm of education. I've been a dean at a college.
What was your major?
My major was African American Studies. I studied under Skip Gates and Sylvia Boone, all of those wonderful folks. Kim Goff Cruz is a classmate of mine. And
so you are right in that sweet spot of time and place.
I was right in that sweet spot.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And but I remained friends, very close friends with B. Taylor and her children, who are now
all grown up,
their own
families. I know, I've known them since they were babies.
Yeah.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I came back for her daughter's wedding, Candace
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
And when I came back for that, I was walking around downtown area and I said, my goodness, New Haven has really changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's walkable. I was living in the Midwest at the time where you had to drive every place.
Yes.
And I was very interested in a walkable city. And I said, goodness,
Mm-hmm.
this place has changed. Didn't make the connection, went back to the Midwest. But then I just said, I really want to be involved. I was thinking about New York City, but I wanted to be closer to Yale because I wanted to be involved more in the alumni activities.
Wow.
And decided, just woke up one day in my home in Indianapolis, Indiana, and said, I'm going back to the East Coast. In fact, I think I'm going to go back to Yale, and called a good friend of mine who is the associate athletic director. I don't know why this keeps coming back to athletics on this day, but the associate.
Because there's some real people who actually are athletes and have come through an educational system with real recruiting of athletes.
Well, I tell you, I was a recruited athlete, but Yale stood out for its academic prominence and athletic prominence. It was the both. And so I decided I called up my friend Barbara and I said, I'm going to come back to New Haven. And she said, oh, finally you're coming home. I guess she considers this my home. I'm actually from Cleveland, Ohio.
Which is very similar.
Not really.
No, you don't feel like Cleveland has the same kind of vibe.
No, not at all.
Okay,
I grew up there.
Okay,
Cleveland's a large city.
It is a large city, but doesn't it have that vibe? Like it's got a lot of black people.
Absolutely, it has a lot of black people.
It's doing a lot. They've got a lot of cool stuff going on.
A lot of history. Historically in terms of activism.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, they had Carl Stokes, which was one of the first black mayors of a large city.
Yes.
So, yes, we're rabble rousers over there in Cleveland. In that sense, very similar to New Haven. And so I really was excited to come back, and it has not been a disappointment. I mean, I can walk everywhere. I walked over here from my Worcester Square apartment.
Is that where you live, in Worcester Square?
I live in Worcester Square.
That's a good neighborhood.
It's a great
that
neighborhood.
Park is gorgeous.
It is the Cherry Blossom Festival, which is coming up.
I know. Do you get tired of people coming over there for the Cherry Blossom? Or
No,
you're like,
not
no,
at all.
I want everybody to see
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
See, I'd be like, get out of my park.
No,
I'm petty like
that. It's a park that everyone loves. That park.
It's a great park, and I love that it feels like it's in like a gym, like it's hidden from.
It really is. It's 2 blocks from the train station.
Yeah,
you can't complain.
Right.
So that can take you to New York City or Boston.
So either way. So you interview for the New Haven Promise job, or they say you're the one for the New Haven Promise job.
This is how it happened. So I knew about New Haven Promise because 2 years before I came back, when it was launched in 2010, Barbara Chesler, my friend in the athletic department, said, oh my goodness, have you heard about this program? She knew I was in education. We've been friends for a long time. And she said, you should really, do you know about this? I said, well, no, I hadn't heard a thing about it. And then she said, I don't understand why they haven't asked you to run this program. There goes the seed. And I was thinking to myself, why didn't they ask me to run this? That's the vanity. Okay, I admit it. But I was in education, and when she told me about that, I read all about it. But I could see, I did my research, and I saw that they actually had a team in place. Emily Byrne, who you must know, Emily Byrne.
Yep.
And she had done an amazing job, as that first executive director, putting all the bones in place of literally what I have built the programming on.
Mm-hmm.
And so after I called Barbara and I said, Barbara, I'd like to come back. I'm coming back to New Haven. She said, okay, let's find you a job. I went on the internet. See, the internet really is helpful.
30 years. Celebrating 30 years yesterday, I think.
Mm-hmm. The internet is extremely helpful. I went on the internet and the job was open. It said executive director of New Haven Promise. And I said, oh my goodness, I think this is that program. Well, what do you think I did? I called my friend Barbara. And I said, Barbara, did you know that this program was looking for an executive? She said, no. She said, give me your resume. I'm going to see Rick Levin tomorrow, and I will give him your resume. And that's what she did.
Get
and the rest
out.
is history.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, of course, I was not given the job. Disclaimer, I had to interview and go through a very rigorous process. But, you know, it must have meant to be because, you know, one thing led to another. And the job had been open, I believe, for, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. So,
really? Because nobody wanted it?
No, that wasn't it. They had an interim director. Do you know what's her name? Who was there at the time?
I don't know because I didn't keep up with New Haven's Promise until you got there.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, they had someone who was there. You know, kind of overseeing the program. And that person didn't really want the executive director job. She was
just placeholding a little bit.
Yeah, she was finishing up law school.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that.
And did a wonderful job. I mean, the team in place, you know, really held it together. And Emily had decided to go work for Stephen Pryor at the state. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was such a great opportunity for her.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I applied, and I had the right combination of experience of what they were looking for. They were looking for someone who had school district experience. I had been the chief academic officer of the third largest district in Indiana, so I had that, number 2 in the district. And I also was a dean at a college at the time. So I had both the higher ed as well as the K through 12 experience. And with school reform
and New Haven Board of Ed didn't try to drag you in to take a job with them?
No.
Okay.
They're doing well, I think. You know, norming, storming, and performing. You know, the team. It just takes time. It takes time to pull it all together.
I think you're right. All right. So tell me about New Haven's Promise. Tell me about the kids who stick with it, because the promise is, as you said, the promise is going on 9 years old. And when it started, the first class that received the tuition benefit was the class graduating cohort, high school cohort of 2011. It was announced in December. Remember? Were you there at the announcement? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was at Co-op High School, and they gathered everyone, you know, in the city. And I believe Daniel Malloy had just learned that he was the governor.
Oh, okay.
So there was some recount or something. There was some challenge at that time. I don't remember. But so Daniel Malloy was there, John DeStefano, you know, all the big players, Marna Borgstrom, Will Ginsburg, Dr. Mayo. Yeah, we have a lot of pictures from that time. And, you know, they announced that, you know, it would be up to full tuition if you met certain requirements, a 3.0 GPA.
Who's full tuition? For what? For where?
Up to full tuition at a public college in the state of Connecticut.
So not at Yale. Like they wasn't going to float you for Yale.
No.
Okay.
So for private colleges, it's a smaller benefit.
Okay, but there is some benefit.
There is some benefit.
I never hear about that part.
Well, because I guess it's just more exciting when you say you're going to be sending what full tuition at UConn is going to be.
It's about
$12,000. Yeah,
it's expensive.
Or Eastern, Central, Western, and then we have smaller benefit, but we're able to leverage that scholarship. But I could remember seeing in the paper that very first year, because I was researching for my interview articles, and the program was criticized because in the first year it only gave out about $78,000. But what folks didn't realize is that, you know, you give students time to achieve the standard. So normally promise programs are announced and they don't start right away. They start in like 2 or 3 years. But the great thing about this program is they really wanted to start right away. But how do we do that? And so it was a phase in. That first year, we were just looking at, you all were just looking at the senior grades. So you had to achieve a 3.0 in the senior year, do 10 hours of community service, you know, for that year, and miss no more than, I think, 18 days of school or something like that. 90% attendance. But you only got 25% of the benefit because it was only looking at that senior class, and they were able to start. So the next year, it was 2 years, the junior and
okay,
the
I see.
So it took us 4 years. In 2014 was our first 100% benefit class.
Okay.
Now we're fully implemented starting last year. We have all 4 years are getting 100% of the benefit.
So how long does the benefit last? 1 year or 4 years?
All 4 years.
Oh, get out. Where was this when I was a kid?
Well, I know. Where was it?
So can they take this money anywhere?
Only in the state of Connecticut.
Only in the state of Connecticut.
Yes, you have to go.
Because there's no HBCUs in Connecticut.
No, not the last time I checked. There are a few in Ohio, but none in here. But it's made a huge difference. We just
I'm sure it made a huge difference. Yes.
And so this year, we just dispersed $3.4 million.
Get out of here. And how many kids does that take care of?
It takes care almost 800.
Full rides?
Well, it depends
on
where you stayed in the city.
Okay, all right.
The most lucrative is if you've lived in the city and your children have been in New Haven public schools or charter schools in the city. Because remember,
and charter schools is a part of this too.
Achievement First, Common Ground, Booker T. Washington, which doesn't have seniors yet, but Highville Charter.
I was my kids started at Highville many years ago. And they didn't finish there, but they started there when it was in Hamden.
But now they're here in New Haven.
Now they're in New Haven, and I'm on the board of Common Ground.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I knew that.
It's a great. It's such a great school.
It really is a great school.
Wow, this is cool. So Patricia, how do people stay motivated? How do young people stay motivated to stay strong through their high school years to get this benefit toward the end? I would imagine that it goes out of, I don't know, like,
we have some advantages now.
Do you rein in guidance counselors and say?
We definitely work very closely with the school counselors. We're in the schools all the time. So we do assemblies. So we do assemblies with each grade level.
Like, hey, listen.
This is what the scholarship is. These are what the requirements. And at this point in time, you have to understand we've had siblings go through. So those siblings, are great role models for their younger siblings. We've had, I don't know how many sets of twins go through. And most families, it's just not one child. It's like 2, 3, 4 children.
Listen, I got 4. I get it. I get it. So
we have that whole intergenerational thing going on now, where there are a lot of kids who have gone through, and they absolutely share that information with their younger siblings. They want to give back. I mean, the youth in this city are great in the sense that we require 40 hours of community service. But one of the things that I noticed, having lived all around the country, is that youth here in this city are very active. This is a very politically active city.
A
lot of activism.
At every grade level, there's some activism.
It's just not the parents, but it's the students. No, it's really ingrained in them.
Yes, no,
so
you're
the 40
right.
hours of community service, I mean, our students, our scholars, these are New Haven city youth, and they're very committed to the city. They love the city.
Wow.
They love the city. And they show that love in many different ways through service.
So you have to have, I'm sure there's some academic standing that you have to meet, some criteria.
You just have to maintain a 2.0 GPA, which
is low. I mean, that's not a high GPA.
It's what's called good standing.
Good standing.
Good standing, and you have to be fully enrolled. So you have to, at a minimum, have 12 credit hours, which the average, if you're going to finish in 4 years, is 15 credit hours. So there's some leeway built in there, because the most difficult year, obviously, is that transition year, the freshman year, going from public school, and now you're much more independent, and you have to, your parents aren't getting you out of bed. You have to get out of bed yourself. You have to go to class. No one's going to make you go to class. And so, in that way, we're just aligned with what good academic standing is at our university partners.
So, so how many kids in one? How many kids a year this year? How many kids?
About 800.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And so you have a big award ceremony. What happens?
Yes, we do a celebration because part of it is, what our board does and is they vote. Like we'll vote. The board will vote in June, which is our next board meeting, to fund the incoming 9th grade class in 4 years.
Okay.
For 4 years.
Okay.
So we're making commitments pretty far out.
Wow.
Yeah, which to me is wonderful because what it says is that, and the folks who are on our board, Yale New Haven Hospital, the Community Foundation was right there from the very beginning. We really have had very steady support. Obviously, Yale. These are the anchor funders in the city. And they are very committed to, obviously not just the adults, but the youth in the city. In just 8 years, we now have scholars who have gone through this program, have graduated, have their first job, have married, and expecting their first kids.
Really?
And bought a house. Let's not forget the buying of the house, which is very important. Which brings me back to, this is not just what distinguishes Promise from just a scholarship program. It's at heart is an economic development initiative. And so what it has done, it has kept these students connected to the city. And now we're in our 6th year of working, sort of developing. We've pretty much developed a very extensive internship program, internship and career launch. So if you look on our cover, you'll see 2 through and back.
Yes.
So we commit beforehand. Like I said, that 9th grade year, we're committing, as soon as the kid comes into high school to them, and that we'll fund them in 4 years for the next 4 years, all throughout. Okay. But what we do is we support them while they're in college to make sure they're successful, and we work very closely with our college partners. And then we are focused on bringing them back, meaning we want to get that return on investment. Because, as I said earlier in the show, the number 1 employer, Yale, the number 2 employer, Yale New Haven Hospital, and I'm sure the city's up there in the top 10. And we really need this talent to take our place. So that I could get my Social Security and you get your Social Security.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our career and civic launch is the 3rd part of that pillar, the and back part. So as you look through this Scholar Annual, you'll see all sorts of stories written by scholars about their experience, working internships at Yale, being employed at Yale, being employed in the city, being employed at New Haven Public Schools, which has a whole push on getting more minority educators. Well, why not
start here?
Start here.
We
have homegrown talent.
I'm looking at the Promise scholars or the breakout of the schools they've gone to.
Yes.
From Albertus Magnus, and University of Bridgeport, Central Connecticut State University, Connecticut College, UConn, Eastern Connecticut, Fairfield, Gateway, University of Hartford,
yes,
Housatonic, Lime Academy of Fine Arts. That's impressive. Yeah. Mitchell College, University of New Haven, Quinnipiac University, Southern, Wesleyan, Western, Yale. They've got a handful of kids.
Oh, absolutely.
Alfred. Some of these schools I don't even know. I don't know Alfred University, but a kid from Common Ground is there. American University.
Now we don't pay tuition for students who go out of state, but what we do is those students are our scholars. They're able to participate in our internship program.
Okay.
So our internship program is paid. We do not do unpaid internship programs.
Thank the Lord.
Yes. Or rather, thank the employers in the city who have stepped up. So last year we placed about 170 kids in paid internships.
Really?
Oh, yes, we did. Half of them.
I don't think people know that. Well, now they know it.
Well, hopefully now they'll know it.
170. How do you do that? How do you do that?
We've been working on this for about 6 years. So we had our first internship fair in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And we started with just a small group. That was at the time that Yale launched its community hiring initiative, and we launched our internship fair at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So we partnered very closely with Yale. Half our internships are at Yale. So many of these students who have walked past Yale, maybe, some of our students go to Yale, but many of them actually work at Yale and paid internships in all different departments. Yale University Press, the med school, HR, finance. Finance is huge. IT department.
So these kids that come through this program, that stick with this program, they are already achieving kinds of kids. Would you say that? I mean, they're already on a track to success on some level. Would you say that?
I would say that these,
because it doesn't look like a whole lot of hand holding going on, but yet these kids,
there is a lot of hand holding.
A lot of hand holding.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you look on page 5, this will tell you what's going on.
Okay.
The city lost enrollment in their public schools. It was a huge, enrollment decline.
Uh-huh.
And then in 2009, 2010, school change was announced.
Mm-hmm.
And then Promise was announced right behind it.
Okay.
So now, New Haven Public Schools is actually the largest district in the state. 9 years ago, it was the third largest.
Wow.
And it was losing enrollment. But since Promise was announced with school change sort of stopped, but Promise has continued.
Mm-hmm.
The New Haven Public Schools is at a 50-year enrollment high.
Wow.
And this is the slope.
Okay.
See how big that is?
That is huge.
So where is that growth happening?
Mm-hmm.
Many of the families who would have moved out of the city around the 6th grade, it's kind of that magic number.
Yeah, like I gotta go get in a district with a better school.
They've stayed in.
Okay.
They've stayed in.
So the Promises made them want to stay. Like there's an opportunity
here. You have
here.
to live in the city to get Promise.
Yeah.
If you move to Hampton,
you won't get it.
If you move to West Haven,
won't get it.
If you move to North Haven, no.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be in the city. So we've retained that enrollment and we've attracted families.
Now, do people is this a good tool for businesses to recruit talent to this city?
Absolutely.
Yes, because I would imagine if I'm looking to bring people here, whether I'm the president at Yale, and we're like hiring people, this is attractive.
Yes, it is.
Or if I'm the hospital people or the city's people, I want to recruit people to come work here. I want the intellectual capital. And what entices them more, I think, that when you live within the city, if you put your kids in these public schools, there's an opportunity for your kid to get a full ride scholarship to a Connecticut college.
Full tuition.
Full tuition. Sorry.
There's still, what we say is Promise makes college affordable, not free. So, the students still have to apply for other scholarships for.
But that's a huge chunk, though.
It helps. It's a nice nest egg.
That's a huge, and if you've got more than one kid going in succession, that's a nice little chunk of money.
Yes, it is.
So that's nothing to sneeze at. And you mix that with, if parents are forward thinking, when that kid gets starts, you set up a chat account. So you really could, if you played your cards right, you really could get your kid through college debt free.
Well,
kinda.
I would say that about 2/3 of our students who are going to UConn, and we have that's our highest number of students. Last year, we sent 95 kids to UConn alone. In just 1 year.
Wow.
So we expect to send probably 95, maybe 100 kids to UConn pretty much every year. And we're able to leverage those dollars. So if you're a family.
And UConn is not cheap. Like this state school is not cheap by any imagination.
Well, the tuition now is roughly about $13,000. Now,
that's a lot.
If you've been in the city, let's say your child has been here, since kindergarten, and you've lived in the city, your kid gets into UConn, and then UConn is actually, for every Promise scholar that goes to UConn, they get an additional benefit that UConn brings to the table. That's an additional $5,000.
Oh.
So Your child will start with, just right off the bat, at a minimum, 17,000, between 17 and 18,000.
Okay.
And what we've seen is that's why the numbers at UConn have gone up.
Mm-hmm.
We also have those agreements with Southern. So Southern has a residential scholarship. There are ways to sweeten the pot, and that attracts families.
Mm-hmm. So now these schools, they get to sort of recruit coming with some sweetener too, right? Like that's what you're talking about. Like they come, we want these promised students too.
Yes, Albertus Magnus. We made a huge announcement with Albertus Magnus that they would dedicate 20 scholarships to New Haven.
Well, they should. They've been here long enough.
City kids, and it was a residential scholarship plus another 20,000.
Mm-hmm. They should.
And those numbers, we've seen those numbers in the admissions go up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
families are looking for value.
Yeah, I think
and so are the students.
Yeah.
The students are pretty savvy.
And these schools are great schools. Like, these are really good schools.
Well, the other reason why we are now the number one school district is because if you look on this page 5 again, the Black and Hispanic graduation rate, New Haven Public Schools has far outdistanced its peer districts.
And, I think that's something that needs to be talked about a little bit more and often.
Well, we talk about it. We're doing a presentation at the Teaching and Learning Committee, which the mayor chairs for the Board of Ed, on the 20th. So we're going to talk about how kids perform at the next level. We have a lot of information that other cities don't necessarily have because we've been tracking these kids since. Well, we have a robust database. We've been tracking them since 2011.
Really?
Yes.
See, I think that would be some good information for the Latino community here, that their children are achieving.
Achieving? I would go beyond that. I mean, if you look now on page. Sorry to keep referring.
No, that's fine. This is what you want to.
Treasure trove of information.
No, this is
page 7, which is the next.
I'm right there.
And you will see that we track how many dollars are invested in these students by neighborhood and by ward.
Oh, I love this.
So ward 12, 19, is that 19? 12, wait, that's 13.
12,
okay.
13, 15,
17, 26. Those wards, those students are receiving over $1.5 million in Promise plus financial aid, like federal grants. And that's accruing to their education. And if you see, Fairhaven is the darkest. So that community is getting quite a bit of money.
That's good to hear. Because
one of the things that we do, and we started this, and I think other Promise programs have followed suit, is we fund DACA students and undocumented students.
Really?
As long as you are a resident of the city.
And how do you don't get any pushback from that? The feds haven't knocked on your door and said, turn over those kids?
Well, we don't really track them.
Okay. I hear
but we know we're funding them.
Okay. But that's the right thing to do.
This is a sanctuary city, isn't it?
It is. It's very much a sanctuary city. And these people take it very seriously.
Yeah.
So, but that's a wonderful thing because you didn't have to, you could have
the founders
skirted that.
Once again, the founders were very clear that was important, that all residents of this city who committed to the city would receive this benefit.
Wow. That's a good benefit. That's
a great benefit.
That's a good, I love this idea of promised leverage dollars. And that's what we were talking about a few minutes ago with Alberta stepping up with some scholarship money.
Scholarship money. Southern as well has, and so we're now, as far as we are concerned, think about it this way. Now, did you grow up in New Haven?
I did.
Okay. Did you go away to college?
Yes.
And then you came back?
Yes.
How many of your friends went away to college and came back?
Not that many.
Okay. So now I say,
not that many went away to college.
Okay. Of the ones who did go away,
I think they stayed here.
Okay, well, that's unusual.
Mm.
I went to I came out of Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
I went to college, and I can tell you many of the folks who went to school and college, particularly competitive colleges, did not go back.
Well, you know what? I went to a Votech.
Okay.
So I came through Eli Whitney. So in those days, I came out in 81. You know, people, when you went to a Votech, you got to, it was a vocational education. You got a skill, you got a trade. And so people went into their trades. Whereas I went to college because I always wanted to go to college. And my mother was like, you going to college?
Right.
That was the choice.
Well, I've lived in a lot of different communities across the country, and a lot of students who go to competitive colleges don't necessarily go back to their neighborhood.
Yeah.
To their city.
But I think that was a problem here in New Haven. In Connecticut, I think, that people were taking their brains out of state and staying out of state because Connecticut offered nothing.
So what does it look like when an entire city embraces its young people to, through, and back from college? It means that we're launching. That's why we do the career and civic launch, because we do keep students here when they're getting a great internship program. You know, an internship job turns into a full-time job.
Yeah.
So we're really, again, we're in economic development. We're keeping students here. We get the first shot at those students. We develop relationships with those students. And that's a different model than what's happened with particularly communities of color. You know, your brightest and educated kids, not that we do just the brightest. I mean, 3.0, we also have our Passport to Promise scholarship, where students between 2.5 and 3.0 can also have a chance to get a scholarship.
Okay.
They have to prove themselves in that first year.
Okay.
But what that does is that allows us to have the first shot to help develop those kids, to get them work ready, career ready, and to actually make sure that we can involve businesses so that they know that the best hire is going to be someone right here in New Haven.
Wow. So you do this, do you, because there's a lot of programs in town that are trying to do this work readiness piece with young people.
However, not what we do. All of our kids at least have a 2 or 4 year degree.
Wow.
The Chamber of Commerce just had an internship fair, which was its first, I think. We've been doing this for 6 years.
And so they're trying to catch up to y'all.
Well, we're trying to work together.
Okay.
We're going to work together.
You say work together, I say catch up.
I say work together.
Okay.
I mean, because they can reach, we focus primarily, one, we have a very small staff. We only have 4 people who work in our office.
Oh my God. And you put out this kind of stuff with 4 people?
Yes, we do.
Oh, see, government ought to disband itself and just start again.
Yeah. But we're very efficient. I have some incredibly talented people. This is beyond
efficient. I mean, you are tracking data.
Well, we say we have unicorns. See, I need a little unicorn still because we have a bunch of unicorns in my office.
I know, but you know what? This is very thoughtful. I mean, you've thought of everything. You've thought of every sort of corner, every sort of question, every sort of what would people ask? What would people want to know? I mean, I think it's pretty critical. I don't even think we get this kind of information out of the Board of Education in terms of the way kids are tracked. So this is quite, I didn't even know some of this stuff. Like I wouldn't even have known, I would have thought the Board of Ed would have had this kind of information, but they don't. So the fact that you have it and you know where kids are, you know what kids need, and you know.
We know which kids are performing in science and math. We
know
by school. If you were to ask a question like, you know, how are all the Black males coming out of Newhallville doing in college who are promised? We can
and you can
do that.
You can do that? You can do that. Get out of here. Seriously?
Seriously.
How are they doing?
Well, I don't have it right at my fingertips. So if you look on page,
that's what I want to know.
Look on page 35.
But that's information I'd want to know. You know why? Because we don't hear that kind of conversation. You know what you hear that comes out of Newhallville? Drug dealing. There's a lot of drug dealing.
True. There's a lot of good stuff.
Oh, I know.
The New Haven Independent, the WTNA,
the inner city.
Yeah.
Wait.
This is why we're getting out. I mean, because we have a small staff, we do a lot of things by social media. We have roughly 18,000 followers. So people kind of follow us that way.
I follow you. Yeah.
But we're going to be getting out more. We are going to be hiring a couple more people here in the next couple of months, and that will allow me, because now these numbers are continuing to go up. We're one of the few cities that has this kind of trajectory.
This is good.
But we have to be able to meet the demand. And that means my job is going to shift to less operational and more fundraising.
Okay.
Because
you got to go look for money to keep this going.
Well, currently, Yale is in, I think, for the long haul. Yeah. So is the Community Foundation and Yale New Haven Hospital has been
because
great.
This is really a feather in their cap.
Absolutely.
I mean, it really is. And this is what they ought to be doing, right? This is how you make a real difference. This is how you break the pipeline to prison.
Absolutely.
This is what you enter at this level right here. This is where you do it. So
at this level,
this is good. I love this. The inside the numbers, the first look at performance.
The numbers. So you can, if you look, the 4 charts on this page, and this is just a fraction of what we can do. So you have scholars by neighborhood.
Yeah,
I see
by that,
neighborhood,
which is so cool.
Scholars by high school.
I don't see my neighborhood here though.
Let's get, what neighborhood are you in?
Beaver Hill. I don't see Beaver Hill.
Do we break it out as Beaver Hill?
No, probably not. Oh, yes, I see it.
Okay.
Whoa.
So how are you doing?
We're doing pretty. We're
doing pretty good.
We're like in the middle.
You're doing pretty good.
We're doing all right.
But then, wait, I think this is really critical. Scholars by middle school.
Now that's interesting because
there are questions that we should be asking, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then scholars by college. Those are the, our largest number of scholars go to UConn because that commitment is kicking in. Kids are definitely going in state as opposed to going to Notre Dame or UMass Boston or Boston College.
This is good. I think this is good. I love that there's the breakdown first semester GPA. Like that's critical to know what is happening.
Yes. So I invite you to come to the Teaching and Learning Committee that I present, because I will be presenting on a number of different metrics.
This is really good. I love that you get the average GPA. You get the retained. Okay, this is good. Wow. So are you pleased?
We're very pleased. I mean, right now, what we're focused on is, about 350 kids in the last couple of years have qualified for Promise. Now, all of those kids don't go in state. About 70% go in state. And then the remainder go out of state. Very few sit out. They're going somewhere, which is great. And so what we've seen is that, no, we are influencing students who, maybe they weren't going to go to college, or if they were going to go to Gateway, they now can go to Southern. They can go to Eastern, Central, Western. They're going to a 4-year institution. And most of I would say we do have a higher percentage of undocumented students who don't qualify for federal aid going to Gateway.
Okay.
But their full tuition in most cases are paid for at Gateway.
Do you do anything with special education kids or special needs kids or intellectually challenged kids, or do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, they have to be able to be admitted. I mean, we definitely have special ed kids in the mix. We don't track them specifically because we don't get those documents, but I know of several examples of special ed kids.
Okay.
They have to be able to maintain a full course load. And, that's really the criteria. So most of those kids, really all of them, have to get assessed by disability services because the rules are a little different in college than in K through 12.
So what's the future looking like? You happy here? You staying? What do you hope for the Promise?
Wait a minute. I've been here, and a lot of people I came in with are no longer here.
What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. What about you?
But I'm still here.
You're still here because you still...
We're thriving.
So what is
I enjoy my job. I love my job. It's one of the best jobs.
So what do you see moving forward? What's the hope for the future? What's the next 8 years What would you imagine or hope the next 8 years would be like?
Well,
what do you want?
I think that there are some financial goals that we absolutely have. I mean, we have to move beyond the core anchor institutions, and we should be looking at building an endowment of some sort that would fund some of our operations. We are a program that's pretty innovative. People are very interested in how did we get these results. Our data warehouse is exceptional. Our application, we do everything online. I mean, we really can track everything. We've built that from the ground up. So we have proprietary software that we could probably,
Sell?
monetize. Yes.
Because I'm sure other people would want to do it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely want to do it.
We are actually having a summit because we've gotten so many inquiries from people around the state, as well as, next door, Rhode Island, from the Midwest, even from out in California.
This could be a good moneymaker for you. Then you get Microsoft to underfund it a little bit, or somebody.
Well, we're definitely looking at some national funding sources. And, our first sort of 4 years, we were over at the Community Foundation, and we were a component fund of the Community Foundation. We're now our own nonprofit. So we're going into our 3rd year as our own nonprofit. So that will allow us to, go to corporate foundations, which really require you to be your own nonprofit. It will open up a lot more funding sources. But I wanted to invite you to our summit. We're actually having a 1-day summit.
See, look, you got me coming to everything now. Look at this. You want me to come to the teachers thing now?
It'll be good.
Where's the summit going to be?
But you're in the news.
When is the summit?
It's June 21st.
And where's it going to be? Here?
Yale SOM.
Oh.
It's a sponsor.
In the glass box.
It's going to be in the glass box.
Okay. Right.
It's going to be wonderful because there will be people from all over the state of Connecticut who are interested in doing this
When you say doing this, like
doing a promise?
Really? Now everybody wants
benefit.
to do it.
Yes, people want to do it. And so our premise is we're a little different from the rest of the Promise movement in that we don't feel that you need to just spend a ton of money. You need to be efficient in and strategic in how you spend that money. So we spend a fraction.
2 words that do not go well in government.
Well, I guess that's why we're not. Well, we're efficient. We really are. We spend a fraction of what many other Promise programs spend, but our results are superior.
Okay.
And so we want to share, how do we do that? We do that because it's an incentive. Just think about it. Nike. Okay. Engagement, publicity, all these kids. How is it that all these kids want to wear Nike, or now it's what? Under Armour.
Michael Jordan.
That's right. It's marketing.
And Michael Jordan hadn't played basketball in 20 years.
Exactly. Well, guess what? This is why this scholar celebration, why we have such a to-do about the scholar celebration, because we're really talking about a lifestyle. What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? And if you want to live a lifestyle where you're going to drive a nice car, you're going to have a home, you're only going to work one job, your education is very critical to that.
That's probably one of the best messages I've heard in a long time. That's real life conversation. That's real life kid saying to kids. That's the kind of conversation my mother said to me. Do you want to work? Because my mother worked at a commercial laundry, and she was like, do you want to do this, or do you want to do something else? Do something else,
like what you're doing now.
Yeah. Seriously.
I saw a picture of you. You just went to the New Haven library, had their Mardi Gras.
Yes. That was fun.
I haven't been. It keeps
cropping. You mean you haven't
ever?
Oh, you got to come.
I do want to come.
Oh, you'll be my date next year. Be my date next year.
Okay, you just have to remind me.
I
For some reason, I don't know why I'm not on that mailing list.
You probably
but
are.
I did see. I said, "There's Babz. She looks like she's having a good time."
It was fun. I had a great band.
Yeah.
They do this every year. I've only been going the last couple of years. I haven't always been going.
Well, see, I think I'm finally going to go to something.
You should go. And you know where else you should go?
People look like they have a great time at that.
You should go to the Amistad Center's Cultural Center in Hartford, the Juneteenth celebration.
When is that?
They do it Juneteenth, June 14th, I think. In Hartford at the Wadsworth Athenaeum. It's
yes, the Wadsworth.
It is
That's
swanky.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, it's so swanky.
I have to put. How do I get on that list? I already know. John Motley, who's giving money to that.
Oh, well, then there you go. Mm-hmm. You should go. All right, we gotta go. Oh, all right. Oh, you put a battery in, Harry. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Finally,
likewise. It went by quickly.
It does. So that means you have to come back and talk some more.
Back. Well,
seriously,
I have to come back and bring some scholars.
We'll bring some scholars
because they can talk.
Because I want to hear what happens after the summit. I want to hear how that shakes out.
Come?
I think I might come.
You don't have to come for the whole day.
I'm interested now.
Just come for the meal part.
You know what, girl? I'm there. Thank you, Pat Mellon.
Thank you.
This was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Harry.